Hey, fellow babies. Welcome back to the Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. I am Michael Pachter on Twitter at Michael Pachter. You got to follow me. If you are watching this real time because you're a SIFTD subscriber on Patreon, thank you so much for your patronage. You could be getting this real time on YouTube because you're a YouTube subscriber. You can also link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account, and you will get this for free, but you'll get it early. If you do none of those things, then you're watching it on YouTube a week late, which is okay. I insist on that because I know you'll be shocked to hear this. I'm not compensated for this. This is a freebie, but I want to make sure everybody could get some pack loving. So you got to give me some loving back. Follow me on Twitter. I literally think in the 5 years I've been doing this, the 500 episodes, whatever we've done, I think I've picked up 5 Twitter followers. So you can be the 6th. From YouTube, from Zach Luchette. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about shrinkflation, where products shrink in quantity while keeping the price the same. For example, Gatorade recently shrunk the size of its bottle by 4 ounces, but kept the price the same. Do you believe game companies may adopt this model in some capacity? Are we already seeing it with Sony's $70 games? Can gaming companies get away with it like other companies do? I was a season ticket holder for the Dodgers, and my dad was a season ticket holder from 1962 until he moved to Las Vegas, which would have been mid 80s, and so I was just a young punk, but my dad sold me his tickets, and so I syndicated it, and I think I paid for like 10 games a year or something, and it still cost a lot. But what I noticed every year, and I did it for 5 or 6 years, I think maybe 1988 was the last year I could afford to do it. The price I paid in 88 was like $19 a seat, and they went to 27 the next year, and now they're like 200. Anyway, what I noticed was when I went to Dodger Stadium to buy a beer, it was like, let's just say $5, and you got like a 12-ounce beer. Then the next year it was $6, but you got a 16-ounce beer. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That didn't bother me. Then the next year it was still $6, but it went back to a 12-ounce beer. Then the next year it went to $7, and it was a 16-ounce beer. And I remember calling my dad and pointing that out, and he goes, oh yeah, they've been doing that, since 1962. He goes, the way they raise prices, they increase the size. Then the next year they shrink the size. So that's my first experience with it. I mean, I didn't drink beer in the 60s and 70s because I was like under 21, I promise. But then I noticed a phenomenon that came up, the dollar stores. And the first one of those was 99 cents only. And I'm sure you've all seen Dollar Tree and Dollar General. We have Family Dollar. There's a bunch of dollar stores. And the dollar store's claim to fame, 99 cents only, was everything costs 99 cents or everything costs $1. And you go into a dollar store and exactly what you described. It would, whatever it was $1, a jar of mustard, it would be 16 ounces. Then you go in a couple of years later and it was 13 ounces, and a couple of years later 12 ounces. And they kept shrinking until Family Dollar finally just announced that they were going to charge 2. Like they just can't deal with it anymore. And you had consumer packaged goods companies creating products just for the dollar stores, but it got to be so small, like the stuff that they were putting in the jars was so tiny, 1 ounce of ketchup just doesn't work. It'd be like a packet of ketchup. So they couldn't do it. So yeah, this has been going on forever in every other industry. The answer to your question though about games, probably not. And the reason for that is, just like the movie business, as it's gotten more expensive to make games and it's gotten more expensive to make movies, what has suffered is not the blockbuster stuff. Top Gun still comes out, Jurassic World, Avatar still come out. What suffers is the tiny stuff. So I know I'm dating myself because I'm older than you guys, but look up Rob Lowe and his movie career. Because Rob Lowe has been a TV actor for the last 20 years. He's in is it Dallas 911, one of those shows. He's in some Dallas Fire Department show or something. And prior to that, he was in, he's been in like 10 shows. He's in Community, I think, or I always get Community and Parks and Rec mixed up. And before that, he was in The West Wing. So he's been on TV for a good 20 years. But before that, he was a big movie star. He was just a big movie star in what they call romantic comedies, which cost 20, 30 million bucks to make. And so they would play in the movie theater and they'd make 50, 60 million at box office, and then some DVD sales and some residual rights, and then the operators made money. Well, they stopped making those movies because as the price went up from 20 million to 30 million to 40 million, the box office didn't, and they couldn't afford to sell them. So they couldn't afford to make them. So they just started putting all their resources into blockbuster films. And what you saw in the movie industry is in the year 2000, I think there were 220 major studio releases from the 7 big studios. I'm not going to name them all, but there are 7 big U.S. studios. Now Fox and Disney are the same, but it used to be 2 different studios. In 2019, which is the last year before COVID, 130. So the 220 number figure for produced films in box office got dropped to 130. That's what's happening in the games industry. So you used to have tons and tons and tons of crappy little games made by the publishers, and now they just don't do it. They make bigger bets. The one guy who still makes crappy little games is Ubisoft, and they probably need to rethink that strategy. I mean, again, I shouldn't call them crappy, but games like Just Dance and Rabbids, they keep making them. They're just not that great. And they've been working on Beyond Good and Evil for like 8 years. That's a small game, so when it comes out, like, it'll be the first and last one of those in the last 20 years because they aren't going to make any money on it. They've been working on Skull and Bones for, 7-8 years, and it's going to flop. I mean, just sorry. It was a good idea when Assassin's Creed had pirate sea battles, and that was that was Assassin's Creed 2015, I think, Black Flag. Look it up. I think it was 2015. That window closed 3 years ago. They screwed up. So little games, bad idea. Every time someone sees a little game flop, they decide they don't want to make it. So the answer is no. We're going to get more games like GTA that are going to go from 200 missions to 300 missions because they can. And they'll look at GTA and say, oh, we only sold 165 million units of the last one, so we don't care. We can take 10 years to make this one, and if we sell another 150 million, it was worth it, and it's going to get bigger, not smaller. Now, $70 versus $60 is a good question because, and I'll give you another real world analogy. I drink regular coffee, like I drink U-Band coffee because I like it, and when I first started drinking coffee, it came in a can, and it was 48 ounces. And then a few years later, and I've been drinking coffee for 30 years more. A few years later, it went to 42 ounces. Then it went to 39 ounces, then 36, 33, and they're down to 25.6 ounces in a plastic container. And I don't know where that number came from, nor do I actually give a shit. It's probably 3/4 of a liter. I don't actually know. But the point is, coffee has cost about $5.99 for a can the entire time, and they're down to little cans now, plastic, and that's because they can get away with it, and it's bullshit. I'd rather buy my coffee in 48 ounce cans because the top keeps it fresh, and a 25.6 ounce can of coffee lasts me about 10 days, and a 48 ounce would last me about 20 days. Who cares? It's not going bad, so this is what they do. And they think we're so stupid that we don't notice. So, the right thing to do, gasoline should change from gallon to liter. We wouldn't even notice, right? The price would drop. I mean, I'm saying, like, people just don't, and again, I know you look at the price of a gallon of gas, but you actually think in terms of what's it cost to fill my car up. You never see anybody take a picture of the price per gallon. They take a picture of my tank costs $100 to fill up. But yeah, you can screw around with measurements, and just like you did in this question, people noticed. In fairness, Call of Duty single player campaign used to be planned to be about 10 hours. And in 2007, I think it was a 10-hour single player. And in 8 or 9, I can't remember which version of Call of Duty, it definitely wasn't Modern Warfare. After Modern Warfare, there was a big brouhaha from the game reviewers that the single player campaign was only 6 hours. People made a big deal about they're cheating you on the single player campaign. And I have to say, because I suck at games, like, I would never have noticed. Like if I'd finished in 6 hours, I would have been like, I'm really good. like I can't believe I got that done in 6 hours. But no, I think that the backlash that we got in 08, 09, which wasn't just Call of Duty. I just remember that game in particular got bad reviews because the single player campaign was shorter. Developers have bent over backwards to give us more. So I always talk about my favorite game, ever, Fallout 3. I have way more than 200 hours in that game. And it's because there are at least 200 things in the game to find, locations to unlock. And then once you find them, there's stuff to do. And it takes at least 20 minutes, to get to a location and figure it out. So, there's just intrinsic value without even doing the damn story mode. It will take you at least 40, 50 hours just to unlock stuff. And you can't unlock stuff till you get through certain accomplishments. So games are being built to keep you engaged for a long time, and that's a single player game. Multiplayer games obviously have replayability, forever. So I don't think you should worry about them skinnying down games. The other thing we've had since all this brouhaha is the emergence of the $10, $20, $30 game. And so play Fat Princess. I don't actually know what the single player story mode in Fat Princess, it can't be very long. Flower, did you play Flower? Flower took me 2 hours start to finish, but I paid $10 for it. So it was totally worth $10 for my 2 hours. I mean, it was great. So I think that, we're seeing prices get tweaked to accommodate for the length of the game. And you never sell Flower for $70. But if you haven't played it, it's amazing. I mean, what a fun game. And the music is beautiful, and what was the other one that they made though with the Journey, yeah, with the sand dunes. Again, I don't think that. I mean, that took me more than 2 hours by 4. That was a really short game as well, really fun. But again, $10 or $20. So I think that guys who make small games are willing to take $10 or $20 for them. Guys who make long games, unfortunately, kind of stuck taking $60. And the right question is just, is this like coffee where we just can't charge more than $5.99 or $6.99 a can? We just can't raise the price. Take-Two tried it with NBA 2K, but you're barely seeing it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think most publishers are willing to go to 70. They'll do it occasionally, and I think that consumers feel like they deserve extra for it. And what I think you're also seeing is that the price of the game is far less relevant to the overall monetization than the ongoing FIFA Ultimate Team, Grand Theft Auto Online, Call of Duty Warzone is separate, but to get Call of Duty players engaged and get them spending money. And I think that everybody's figuring out a way to add a live services component to that $60 or $70 game. Dumb to make it 70 if you can get more players at 60 and then get them all to spend $10, on in-app purchase. So yeah, I think odds are you're going to get more content for your money over time, but I don't think they'll shrink. I think Sony's really stupid, and in general, I think it's a stupid company. The real crazy thing is that the dollar is equal to 120 yen now. I always do this backwards, and it was equal to about 100 yen a year ago. So if Sony sells a game for $70, that used to turn into 7,000 yen. Now it turns into 8,400 yen. So let's go back to 60. If last year they sold me a game for $70 and got 7,000 yen, and this year they charge 60, they get 7,200 yen, because the yen is 120 to the dollar. So they would actually make more money if they cut the price and sold more units than if they try to raise the price. But that's just stupid and greedy. It is stupid of them to do that with exchange rates where they are. They are making more money than they've ever made before, because the yen was 180 in the 80s, but this is about as weak as the yen has been against the dollar in the last 15 years, 20 years. So they're minting money. But to answer your question, I actually think Sony's doing it because they're greedy and they want to make extraordinary profit. And I think that the Sony PlayStation guys get rewarded based on profit. So they're taking it out of your hide, and they're all living large. And it's clearly a pain point for consumers because you're bringing it up. It's clearly a pain point for consumers because most publishers don't want to do it. So, and it is just Take-Two. I don't think FIFA hasn't been $70. Right? I haven't seen. I mean, honestly, I think NBA is the only Western published game that's been $70. Right? Nothing for Microsoft $70, and Nintendo for sure not.
No.
Yeah. So, and I mean, again,
all PlayStation's first-party games. So
yeah, but
and those games haven't changed.
No, but I'm talking Ubisoft and
yeah, they're still 60.
Yeah, PlayStation's just being greedy, and write them a letter, boycott PlayStation. Thanks for joining us on today's Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. To our Patreon patrons, thank you so much. To our YouTube subscribers, thank you so much. To all of you who have Amazon Prime, create a Twitch Prime account and link them. It's really easy to do. You can use your parents' account. We get paid. You don't have to, it costs you $0. It's included in your membership, and you have to renew that. So go to the link on the show description below, and it'll teach you how to do that, but do it, please. And if you can't do any of those things, if you don't have Prime and you don't think this is worth paying for, you have to follow me on Twitter as a price of admission, @Michael Pachter. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.